up to the 38th floor or whatever it is in the Gulf and Western building at that time, which is now the Trump Hotel. At that time, we
We'll get to that later.
yeah. But anyway, it was there. We just shot all of Brando's scenes, or ran the movie, and when Brando's scenes came up, we just filmed them. We just videotaped them, and then I would use those and study them over and over again. So that was one thing that I did.
Hey, and you must have been kind of a fan of his work. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
curious about your relationship to his work long before you ever were in the business.
Brando, James Dean, Montgomery Clift, one or two other actors. Yeah, those are my favorites.
Yeah. And how's your Italian?
It's okay.
You had to really.
Well, that was Sicilian, but a little Italian mixed in. But yeah, it was okay. I tried my best.
You spent a few weeks in.
Yes,
Sicily?
I was in Sicily for like 3 weeks.
And so you talked about some of the actors you admired. Were there any particular films or plays or novels, works of art? You grew up in an artistic household, obviously, but were there works that inspired you that you can kind of go back and say, aha, I was X years old, I saw that film?
When I was a kid, I'd see the movies that kids at that age, most kids see in the Loews Theater, or the double bill of Ben-Hur. Sunday Last Summer was one that was a little more artistic. Tennessee Williams, Elizabeth Taylor. Was she in it? No, that was Anna Magnani, I think. And I forget who. Maybe I'm mixing them up. But it was a more big mainstream type films that I would see. Or The Searchers, John Wayne.
You said, oh yeah, the guy from Meet the Parents. So there's a whole generation. I know, I'm working on it, don't worry. But there is an entire phase of your career that you flourished in comedy. And you've had roles over the years that have had elements of, Rupert Pupkin. That's a very dark comedy. But there's, you clearly are approaching comedy from a place where you can kind of put it over. But I'm just curious your experience of actually doing it. Why has it been?
Well, with the comedy stuff on a more mainstream way, because I did stuff that was comedy, I guess you could call it in some ways, the Brian De Palma films in the 60s. But Billy Crystal had this idea about analyze this, and then had the script sent to me, and I read it, I said, this is kind of interesting, it'd be fun to kind of make fun of all that stuff, and so that's how that started. And then after that I met Jay Roach, and we did the Meet the Parents, those 3 films.
But it really is something.
And I get a big kick out. I love Saturday Night Live. When I look at a movie, I always say, I wonder how they're going to do this on Saturday Night Live. And they're great.
I mean, do you see it as like the yin and the yang? I mean, the dramatic roles, you have to have the commitment. The commitment is there.
Well, there's also funny situations or ironic situations that come out of real interactions with people. I like that too, where real characters get into funny situations, but they're real.
Yeah.
And you can find that with the characters in Analyze This, you can find with Goodfellas, Mean Streets, even certain things that are just funny but real.
So you mentioned some of the actors who inspired you, and you studied with Stella Adler.
Yes.
And kind of carried that tradition forward. Do you see a lot of work today that you think extends that? Do you feel like it's still alive and well, or is it sort of more of a 20th century phenomenon?
Well, I don't know. It's different these days, but I mean, the thing about Stella Adler that she taught at that time was a thing called script analysis, where you started by looking at photographs and just taking out of that photograph, a real photograph, and pulling out the stuff that was real. Don't fictionalize as he or she stands in the world. What the relationship of that character, as small and as intimate a scene or this or that could be done, how that impacts, or not even impact, what it reflects about the world, and that gives it the size. That kind of stuff, I think, that I've always been aware of. So when you're doing something, you say, well, this is something, it's small, but it has a lot of relevance to what's going on in certain areas of the world, certain people, certain situations.
So it's been interesting to see you connect over the last several years with kind of another generation of talent. David O. Russell is a director and writer that you've had very successful collaboration with Bradley Cooper.
Yes.
And what is it about them? I mean, is it just been an organic thing? What did you see in their work, or what did they bring out in you?
I'm glad they like me. So no, but we have things that we work together on. We want to do other things together, and I'm very happy about that.
Well, we have to talk about
because they're genuine, not only just genuine collaborators, but friends.
Yeah. And the festival, in some ways, has acted as a connective tissue for the community.
Yeah,
you built a real community. Yeah. Well, that does lead us to your current projects. I do want to ask you about a
Teamster, and he was close to Jimmy Hoffa, and another guy named Russell Buffalino was a mafia guy from New York, upstate, and the relationship between those three. And Joe Pesci plays that character, Pacino plays Jimmy Hoffa, and I play Frank Sheeran. And it's their relationship, what goes on, and I don't know what else I should say. I don't give it away, or everybody knows.
No, don't give it away. Don't give it away. And the stress has been with Netflix that, if it comes on the service, people won't go out to the theaters. There are a lot of major movie circuits that won't play any Netflix films. They're right now kind of sorting all that out.
On how to release it theatrically, and then at one point it goes out the other way. I mean, that's the fair way to do it, especially movies that I've done and been associated with, especially with Marty and some of the other films I've done. You need that kind of presentation, if you will. I think it helps. It's the way it should be presented, the way the film should be presented.
So the other project I want to ask you about is The Joker. Todd Phillips' new take on the DC villain.
Right.
A couple weeks ago, right here where we were sitting, it was New York Comic Con, and I don't know if you ever dipped into that world, but it's really something else. And this is going to be something interesting for you to be in the comic book realm.
Yes.
So I'm curious. And actually,
sort of. Not really.
We're not going to talk Rocky and Bullwinkle.
About what?
We don't have to talk about Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. We're going to skip over that. Let me actually.
I tried my best.
And let me make sure that I set this up because so you play a talk show host who pushes Joaquin Phoenix's character Arthur Fleck to assume his new identity as the Joker.
Is that what they say?
That's the description. This is from the studio.
Yes.
Not some blog.
I push him to help assume his new identity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm filling you in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But I mean, what interests you?
I did because of Todd Phillips. Bradley Cooper's worked with him, and they're friends, and he swears by him. And I liked him. I met him. Joaquin is a wonderful actor, very, very special actor, and so that's great. And they wanted me to do it, and I like the part I'm playing, and part of it's also the connection because of the movies that I've done, sort of brings it into that, because it has it's connected in someone you'll see when you see the movie, like, with the King of Comedy, say, and so on. So,
I did think about it.
yeah, so that's it's a little it's a little different ending, but you'll see.
Yeah, definitely be intrigued to see that. So I kind of didn't want to leave the stage without, I guess, getting a thought or two from you about just, this is sort of a moment unlike any that we've seen, and why? I mean, what are you doing in terms of encouraging people to
Well, I mean, everybody really has to register and vote. I mean, I tell my kids, they're in their early 20s, some of my kids, and I tell them, get out and vote, and I make sure that they go. It's very, very important to vote. Of course, I'd like you to vote for but I think you all know what I'd like you to vote for. But, even if you vote for what I don't like, just get out and vote. It's very, very important. It's essential. I think we're in a crisis in this country. A moral crisis. It's just we're in a bad situation.
And do you feel like, you mentioned the really dire circumstances in terms of preserving the role of journalism.
Yes.
I know you're a news junkie. I mean, that also is an interesting element.
Yeah, well, look what just happened. I mean, that's beyond allowing that to be glossed over is going to bring us to a whole other level worldwide with that kind of situation. It's not. I hope that the people who are supposed to represent us, and so far they've not been doing a very good job, will at least say, look, we've had enough. We have to take a stand on this, period. We must take a stand on it. It's just, you can't allow it. You can't allow it.
And you've said also recently that it's more time for practical strategy. I think that's and here in New York, it's certainly. There's so many battleground states. We have so many races that are important. I mean, what did you watch the Texas debate? That was interesting.
Beto O'Rourke, I like. I hope he wins. I don't know what's going to happen. Polls are like this. They could be accurate. They could not. I don't know. It's just and the most absurd thing is someone like Trump will say, it's such a tactic, such a low tactic. If they lose, you're voting against me. To say that kind of stuff, there are no rules with this guy. There's no decorum. There's nothing. There's nothing. It's terrible.
Did you have moments? You've obviously had a public platform, since 2016 around this, as well as earlier than that. It's like, how did you relate?
During Watergate, I was following it. I was young. I was in my early 30s. I was thinking about other things. I was saying, "Oh, they'll take care of it somehow." I wasn't, and I know people feel the same way about what's going on now. But as I'm older now and see that bad things can really happen if you let them, or if you're not there to prevent them when they're coming our way, it's not good. And I'm not that political really. I just see such a horrible situation in front of us, and it happens incrementally. It's insidious. It just happens. It keeps going more and more until you turn around and you see, wait a minute, how did this happen? That's the real fear. It's insidious. Not to compare us to Germany, but there are similarities. And I was watching some TV show the other day, and they had a speech that was made by Trump, and then they read something from 1984 with Orwell, and it was described the same way.
Participation is the only way, no matter what perspective you're coming
from.
Participation. Well, we want to thank you so much for being here.